while you like it or not, desk side techs learn a lot. You learn bedside manner, you learn every component of the organization. No day is the same. And it was an entry-level job, but I said, I'm going to do this the best I can. And then every time there was a project, whether it was in Chicago or at the Kentucky plant where we make the Camry or wherever, I volunteered. Everything that came up, I volunteered for. And then ultimately, you start picking up the syntax. What are we talking about? Then you do QA, and you learn and learn. And then in 2001, there was an opportunity to be a manager. And I raised my hand. Everyone said I was too young, but I had an MBA in my back pocket, and I had 3 years of the guy who will volunteer for anything. And honestly, I was successful in what I was doing, and said, hey, let's give this guy a shot, and then I ran with it. We have all these AI tools, but they never talk about the data behind it. And if I put bad data into a bad AI machine, I'm just going to have bad outcomes.
One of the things I do, I write for an organization for Nokia, and they're focusing on the Internet of Things and 5G. So they have it in their minds that Chicago will be one of the first smart cities, because we've marketed that as such, and Illinois then would be on that top 10 list. What are we doing that you know of that you can share publicly to make that a reality?
And when I told the governor one time, 2 things that he asked me about security, cybersecurity. One, sir, think of it as the flu. Every year the bad guys are getting a little smarter, so every year we have to constantly invest ourselves, gives us a new injection. Yeah. Just think of it that way. Oh, that makes sense. And the second thing I told him is that it's like when you're in the forest and a bear's attacking you, just make sure you're faster than the other guy. So if the other states around you, I know this sounds weird, but if the state around you is more porous and they could actually penetrate them, they will go to the easier target. Yeah. And then Henry Ford did this mass production thing of a car. And all of a sudden, the car needed gasoline. Gasoline became the primary product, and kerosene became a secondary product. That's what data has become in the last 15 to 20 years. For years, data was an offset. No one cared about it, and it's no big deal. Now, companies are buying other companies, not for their product or anything, it's about the data. Here's a quick example. Cigna bought Express Scripts. Yes. Cigna is a Fortune 60. Express Scripts was a Fortune 23. Express Scripts has 105 billion in revenue. Huge company. But we also had data on 105 million Americans. 1 out of every 3 Americans has something with Express Scripts. Cigna was also really after the data. And they actually owned it. They said, hey, the data is very, so that's what's happening nowadays. Data is king, and that's why companies like Amazon, I mean, they have everything on us. You talk, someone's listening to me right now. And it's happening. Because sometimes I say something, it shows up on Facebook. Are you interested in those silver shoes? Yeah, well, yeah, why not? I'll buy it. But anyway, data has become this commodity. And so if you're in data or security, I'll say that is golden. That's job security for a very long time to come. And if you learn from someone who could connect dots, when you become a manager, you could connect the same dots. So for the state of Illinois, one of the 5 pillars we're focused on is architecture, because we've never had a chief architect in the state. So my first hire has been a chief architect. Directors, VPs, and CIOs, they were in this bubble, right? Their world was this jaded view of kind of what they remembered when they did it 10 years prior. They were never connected. Right. And there's a term in Japanese called Genchi Genbutsu. Genchi Genbutsu means go look, go see. It is incumbent about leadership to go out and understand what's really going on. So do ride-alongs, sit with the ISP, state police, understand what your CIOs are working on, because that makes me a better leader and honestly a better advocate of what the team's doing.